head on compass, on a wing and a prayer through the outback.
There's some pictures in there, yeah.
He's sort of our telephone line to God.
And thank you very much for joining me on this Christmas evening. I do hope you've had a wonderful day. Christmas is about giving and sharing, and that pretty much sums up the life of the man you're about to meet. His job embodies the spirit of Christmas 365 days a year. He's the Salvation Army's Flying Padre, and for our Compass Christmas special, we followed him on an outback odyssey across the Northern Territory, where we meet some unforgettable people of the land.
From the air, you can see just how big the Northern Territory really is. This country is very remote. Outside of Darwin, most people live in towns, Aboriginal communities, and out on cattle stations. It's a long way to anywhere, especially a church.
When we got the job here, it was a bit of a dream come true, and we'd been engaged for 2 years but never knew where we wanted to get married. We knew we wanted something different, something a little bit out of the ordinary. And then Aaron suggested we could get married at the station, which initially I thought was a crazy idea. And then we spoke to a few people and worked out that it could happen.
Kirsty is the governess at Victoria River Downs Station, a vast cattle property near the West Australian border. Her fiancé, Aaron, is head stockman.
I think you get away with it. We first met David conducting his rounds, and instantly he's a very likeable man. After discussing the wedding, David was the first person we thought of to marry.
Captain David Shrimpton is the Salvation Army's Flying Padre, a unique combination of pilot and church minister. He's based in Darwin, and he'll be flying out to perform the wedding ceremony.
I travel approximately 300 to 350 flying hours a year and cover an area from the Queensland border right across to Broome.
David is pretty mellow sort of a guy, pretty approachable. I knew him from seeing him around the station and having the odd cup of tea with him. Was never exactly sure what he did until a little bit more recently, and other people sort of filling me in on David's role.
There's approximately 130 cattle stations and communities that I visit, and contact with probably about 5,000 plus people per year. As one guy explained to me, it's loitering with intent. Just catching up with people and spending time. Well, this is my office, out in the middle of nowhere. Catching up with people who really make this country what it is today. People that work extremely long hours. Well, it's a living history out here.
We don't consider ourselves remote. We're only 30 kilometres from the bitumen, and then it's 300k from town, so we're not nearly as remote as a lot of people, but you are by yourself a lot of the time.
How you going? Doing well. Yeah.
We first got involved with the Salvos when we were doing a compromise with my mother, who made a beautiful christening gown for our first daughter, and we weren't going to get into any of that sort of stuff, but the Salvation Army was sort of a good middle-of-the-road compromise for us.
We're not really religious people, but it was important to me to have the dedication done more as a ceremony to present the child to the community as a joining thing, and I suppose to God.
On this trip, the Flying Padre is dropping in at a few of his regular stops. First up is Sunday Creek Station. It's small by territory standards, only about 850 square kilometres. Tom and Bev Stockwell produce cattle mainly for the live export trade.
It is a very delicate balance coming into a property where you've got anything from 5 people to 50 people. First of all, you want to be made welcome, but you don't want to go in there boots and all sprouting religion, that I'm here to run a church service or I'm here to do some sort of religious session. It's more going to become friends. It's really friendship evangelism.
I think the strength of the Flying Padre service is that while it's clear what their beliefs are and their attitudes, is they certainly don't impose that upon you. They're there if you want that, but it's really more as a role model, and just that if they're able to be of service, they are, and they're there to help rather than to tell you how to live your life.
It's not pushing, you must become a Christian, and letting them know they're not forgotten, even though they might be 500 miles from the closest town.
I've got a magazine for you. Oh, just for you.
It's some pictures in there.
There's some pictures in there, yeah. And some colouring in.
Okay.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
That's the right size for me.
That's the right size for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Another regular stop for the Flying Padre is Hidden Valley Station. Run by David and Jenny James, this cattle station stretches out for 2,800 square kilometres.
Initially, David came in quite often because our airstrip is virtually underneath the flight paths of most of the planes. So we were a very convenient place for him to drop in and catch a bed and see us at night time. And consequently, we got to know him pretty well. I remember who it was, you know. We're 400 k's from Catherine, and for us to go to church is practically impossible.
What do you mean?
So this is virtually our regular church contact.
You know, I believe in God and I'm a religious person, but I'm not a person that standing on a street corner and sings out about it or go to, you know, I don't, obviously from distance I wouldn't be able to go to church anyway, but I just believe in what he's doing.
It's so great to know someone else that has got a very firm Christian belief, that are living the Bible.
The next stop is Tanumbirini Station, managed by Murray and Gillian Webster. It's a huge cattle property by any measure, about 4,000 square kilometres.
Jesus said, let's go to a place where we can be alone and get some rest.
The Flying Padre visits regularly to provide Christian education to the Websters' 2 daughters, Grayson and Caitlin.
This place is like a desert and it's already late.
Christian education is important to my family, Murray and myself and the girls. I feel it gives them a conscience. I'm hoping later on in life, if some other influence or impact in our life turns our children away from us as parents, what we deem as important, they might not. And if they get into trouble somewhere, that they'll have a conscience and they'll know that people like David are there to help them, whether they want to turn to their family or not.
Then Jesus said, how much bread do you have? Go and see.
I think ours is more on a friendship basis and call it religion. Like, we go back to some good ethics and we mix with good people, and I think it's a broader spectrum than just being a strict denomination. I believe they're very open to talk to people of all denominations, and the fact that he's not here hammer and nail going down one path is possibly why we've got along so well for so long.
Often ringing a person up for the first time on a station and saying, look, I'm in the area, do you mind if I pop in? The response comes back, yeah, that's no worries, but don't bring any of that God stuff with you. And it's quite strange and quite remarkable that those people that say that, they bring the God stuff up themselves.
Dungowan Station is on the eastern edge of the Victoria River District. 9,500 head of cattle keep caretaker Ron Henderson and his partner Sue very busy.
The hardest thing for me personally is school. Teaching school to 3 children, one with a disability, makes it a bit harder, but with great support we manage quite well.
I'll look after that.
Padre Dave came to visit us, and initially it was just to sit down and chat. He'd leave his war cry, and there was no in-your-face religion until we specifically asked for it, and then he started delivering the lessons.
John, chapter 8.
And that Jesus is the light of the world.
That's right, it says that. Jesus is the light of the world. Just read all that.
We've had a chat, and I've been to places where he's done ceremonies and things, so I think the main thing for bush people is not in your face and pushing religion.
We're not religious by any stretch, but we feel it's open for the kids to find out for themselves, and they can make their own ideas and beliefs up out of that.
The Flying Padre service began after the Second World War. Its first padre, Victor Pedersen, started out by driving out to remote communities. However, this meant covering huge distances on bad or non-existent tracks. Wet season floods also cut off many areas for months at a time. So Vic, a former Royal Australian Air Force pilot, found a faster way: a plane. 60 years later, the Tiger Moth is now a single-engined Cessna, and David is the latest in a long line of Flying Padres. He's the 9th. For him, the outback is a long way from his family home back in Victoria.
I grew up in Geelong. I'd been in the Baptist church. I'd moved to Melbourne, done some work with Scripture Union, moved into the Church of Christ, and then it was in meeting Jenny that discovered the Salvation Army and what it was.
There's someone else who's always with us.
Jenny is also in the Salvation Army, and she's been married to David for 14 years.
Invisible. We're good friends. That's important. We like to laugh together. We have a good time, and also we work at creating positive memories together. And also we both have a level of spirituality and a commitment to God, which is the centre.
David and Jenny were posted to the Salvation Army Church in Port Pirie, South Australia, and while they were there, he'd learnt to fly.
Flying is something I'd always wanted to do as a kid, and here was an opportunity to learn. I had no idea when I first started to fly where it would lead me.
In 2003, David and Jenny arrived in Darwin to take over the operation of the Flying Padre service. However, they got off to a very rocky start.
It was horrendous. I'm unfamiliar with the territory. I'd never been to the Northern Territory before, but it was also the fact that people didn't know me, and they were discovering who I was and whether I was a person they could trust. And so the first 6 months, I would come home and I would say to Jenny, I don't know what I'm doing, but nothing seems to be working.
Come on, mate. Caught the plane into Catherine this morning.
After that 6 months and into the second and so visits with people, it was all different. I would presume people had discovered that we were okay, we were trustworthy, and we're in here for the long haul.
Hudson River tomorrow afternoon, and it hasn't worked. Yeah.
You know, you have a bump on your head.
Have I got a bump on my head?
Confidentiality and privacy are an important part of the Flying Padre's work. People need to know that what they say won't go any further.
Different times he'll say where he's been, but he doesn't say why he went or what he did, which is how it's got to be. Really, bushmen live where they do because they're a bit private, and sometimes they'll have a mate they'll talk to about it, and sometimes just a lot of times it's just those things are never passed on.
G'day there, young Ted.
Well, how do you mean?
Out on remote Hodgson River Station, Ted and his wife, Bessie, are cattle pioneers. They know better than most that life can take sudden and tragic turns.
I lost my granddaughter in an accident, and a horse accident, fell with her, and she was out with us. She's a 14-year-old girl, should have been home doing school, but you know what it's like when got a chance to go for a ride on a horse and do a bit of horse work, and down she came and just hit her head on the rock.
And old Isaac made a sign to say there'd been an accident. So we went along and we came round the corner. It was too late. Ted was giving mouth to mouth.
She was unconscious for a few hours and then passed away.
It happened many years ago, before David's time as Flying Padre. But it's an accident that's not easily forgotten. So he's ready with whatever support he can offer.
And you see what they did? They paraphrased.
Events like this can shake even the deepest of religious beliefs.
Why does God allow this to happen? Why does it happen to good people? And yes, it tests your faith. It makes you question why we've got such a loving God on one side, and yet this same God allows death and injury and illness to happen to good people. And how do you give good answers?
Any Christian wouldn't be, a true Christian if they didn't doubt. Where is God in this? Everybody, I believe, asks that question. Why does God let these things happen to us? That's life. That's just part of life. And I believe that we can see God in everything in our lives, whether that's positive or negative, and we can allow God to use that for our personal development, our personal growth, and our spiritual growth with Him.
It's still important to make converts and to tell people about the love of God and build relationships with Jesus. But there's a greater need for people to build trust, and until people trust you, they won't accept what you've got to say. When things go wrong in people's lives, when times are tough, you're then able to talk to them about this person, Jesus, and the difference that he can make within people's lives.
When I was in hospital, he was to be buried a few days later.
For Bessie, her personal connection with the Salvos became so strong that she joined their church.
So they're not buried here, but they're...
Wherever you go and you walk into the Salvation Army Church, you straight away, you recognise the uniform, and you know you've got friends, and it's a friendly church. And being a soldier out here, well, I'm not really a person who does a lot of talking about Christianity, and so I'm still just me. But being a member of the Salvation Army Church, to me, it gives me a feeling I belong to a family.
When one of the station hands from Hidden Valley Station became seriously ill, she had to be rushed hundreds of kilometres north to Royal Darwin Hospital. The Flying Padre service was ready to help out.
I've been diagnosed with a rare disease called Wagner's granulomatosis. Yeah, it's a strange name, but it's where my immune system decided it wanted to attack my body. They got some bad soldiers, as they call them, and they decided to attack my lungs.
What David and Jenny did, they went and visited her all the time up there. They made sure that she felt that she was not alone.
Yeah, so he's taken me off the steroids.
When her parents were called and the family were called because they did not think Chantal would make it, Jenny and David stepped in and they arranged accommodation for the family, and they made sure that if they needed internet contact, whatever they needed, Jenny provided it. They also set up a prayer chain for Chantal, which we believe really was what turned Chantal around.
And instead of being on the chemo tablets all my life now, I can get off them in another 12 months.
Chantal is now living with us for a period of time while she undergoes chemotherapy, because she knows no other people in Darwin, and so we provide that opportunity for her to come and live with us for a few months while she has her chemotherapy and just support her through that.
I know that there are families in the district that have been in need of some help, and David's there like a flash, and then any same unimposing manner. He's helped them through it and prepared to go back time and time again. And that's a reassuring thing to have in the back of your mind, to know that there are people like that around to have there. It's not something you necessarily rely on, but it's sort of like having friends that you haven't seen for a long time. You know that they're there if you need them.
David spends 2 days out of every 3 flying. That's 8 months out of every year. His wife Jenny sometimes travels with him, but she's usually based in Darwin, managing the office.
David is away a lot. That has its positives and negatives. It took a fair time to get used to him coming and going all the time and into that routine of him being away and then coming home. And I'd be lying if I didn't say it does put a strain on your relationship, and it does mean that you've got to work harder at that friendship and work harder at communicating so that you're not always talking about work.
Hello.
We have a home office, so that adds another stressor because work's always there, and so trying to keep that separate and trying to take time to cultivate that relationship together.
Jenny and I were often apart. I'll be out for anything from a day to a fortnight, and in contact each night, so I ring in each night and we catch up as to what's happened for the day. But it does take its toll. Coming towards the late part of the year when it's getting hot, the plane is hot when it's sitting on the ground, you get into it and it's sitting at 40 plus degrees. Flying from one station to the next, not being able to get up high enough to get into the cool air. So you're bouncing along, quite rough, quite unpleasant.
There are dangers in flying a single-engine light plane over large areas of uninhabited bushland. The Flying Padre takes risks every time he heads out on a trip. So keeping the plane in the best possible condition is critical and expensive.
It costs around $170,000 a year to keep the service operating. But when you marry that up against the cost of running a church, it's about the same cost. My church building is the plane.
How are you? Joe, is it? Yeah, David. Good to meet you.
The Flying Padre appointment is generally been a 10-year appointment. Now that we're almost halfway through, we tend to think, only got another 5 years to go here. Maybe we might stretch it out to 15 years. It's just one of those roles that just keeps evolving, and each year it gets better and better.
How many have you done, Joe?
80 today.
80?
We've done 375 yesterday.
Yeah?
So how many more to go?
I've got another couple of 300-400 there.
Yep.
Finish him today?
We'll finish him up today.
I guess part of David's personality is that he is a perseverer and he does hang in there, whereas I would often want to give up and think, nah, you know, one knockback's enough. He will keep going back after those knockbacks, especially if he senses that there's someone there who may not be the manager, they may just be a staff member who really want to talk to him.
After David goes, you realise that David's came, he's met everyone, he's spent time with everyone, he's made sure everyone, if they need to talk, they've had the opportunity to talk, he'll sit down underneath the tree there and catch up with them. And then if he thinks someone needs that extra help, you'll see him just catch them in another time.
Sometimes you do need to persevere with people to get past that surface. People are very dubious, very suspicious. Are you going to be here for the long term? And so we need to communicate that we are, both through what we do, but also in the long term over a number of years.
Yep.
Though naturally cautious, it's clear that people out bush appreciate the Flying Padre service.
Oh, I don't think that they worry about whether you give them something in return or not. They'd still give you the help. But naturally enough, if people help you, you want to help them, particularly when they're doing a service for the whole district. So you give them donations and whatever you can do. So they are worth their weight in gold in our book.
You got a mob us, Ted?
Hurry up there, walk on me.
They won't walk on me. They haven't walked on me yet.
A few years ago, there was the idea that they might be going to withdraw that Flying Padre service, and by crikey, that's when we saw, you know, I think there was people being complacent about it, just take it for granted because it's there. But that's when we really saw there was a bit of, attention got paid then.
It's all very well for the people in town. They've got someone to look after them, to listen to them, to help them. Who have we got? It was said then that we didn't need it in this technology time. You've got telephone, you've got TV, and you've got other churches coming. Not so. The other churches didn't come.
What do you got in that stuff, Ted?
Well, a bit of this and a bit of that.
It really doesn't matter what uniform he's wearing. It's, in a certain respect, the police are like that in the bush as well. It doesn't really matter what the uniform is. It's the quality of the person underneath the uniform that you're after.
The Salvation Army, I think that they're just practical. They just fit into people's lifestyle.
They're all looking very happy.
Come on, we're going to give them a drink of tea.
You can't pick up a telephone on a busy station, on an office telephone, and talk about something that's bothering you to a bloke on the other end of the line who hardly knows who you are. It's not the same. But David and Jenny, I can ring them up if I need to, or just talk to them here. And here's sort of our telephone line to God.
Out on Victoria Riverdown Station, the big day has finally arrived for Aaron and Kirsty's wedding.
To get married somewhere where you feel so at home and love the environment is pretty special for us.
We are here not only to witness their commitment to each other, but also to wish them well. This wedding gives public recognition to the private experience of their love.
David was really good helping us put together the ceremony because we just said to him outright, we're not religious people, we have our own beliefs. And he was fine with that, supportive from the start.
In the name of God, I declare you to be husband and wife. You may now kiss your bride.
Thank you.
To make the ceremony suit the couple, yeah, there was a sense of toning down the religious side of it, but it was still, yeah, making it appropriate for me as a celebrant, as the minister, but also making it appropriate for Aaron and Kirsty as the couple. You look forward and you think, well, where I'll be in 10 years' time? I don't know. I hope to be still doing what I'm doing, flying around the Northern Territory. But, you know, time will tell. And God knows the big picture. I don't. And I suppose that is one of the good things. I don't have to worry about the future. God has got it all planned out for me.